we will, oh, sorry, there's something going here. Sorry about that. Yeah, so raise your virtual hands if you have a question. I am here to answer and help as best as I can. And thank you for the introduction. Yes, I started cooking as a kid. So unfortunately, I can't see any of your faces. I wish I could, but I'm so happy you guys could join me tonight. Yeah, so if you want to get started, this is a recipe that I loved when I was a kid. My mom used to make this recipe, and it was just all of my favorite things. It was tacos, nacho chips, cheese, salsa. I mean, it's basically nachos in a casserole form. So we're gonna make this tonight. We're gonna get started off by turning your oven on to 350 degrees. And then, of course, if you haven't already, I'm sure you have, but let's wash those hands because we want to keep things nice and clean. So I've washed my hands already. So yeah, and then we can get started. So as I mentioned, our very first step is turning on our oven to 350. As that gets going, I'm going to tell you a little bit of how I set up my station. Because when I cook at home, very often, I used to make this mistake where I would start reading my recipe and I would just start following the directions right away before I had all of my ingredients ready. So I like to cook what we learned in culinary school. Maybe some of you have heard this term, but it's called mise en place. So what that means, it means everything in its place, which means you go through that ingredient list and you have everything measured out and ready in front of you so that when you get to the method, that you can just go as it directs you instead of having to rush back and chop something and going back and forth. So you don't want to miss any steps. You have everything ready, and keeping it nice and organized will make sure that you have a really, really fantastic and tasty dish. So with that being said, normally we would get the ground beef going, but we're going to get all of our ingredients started. So my station, I have all of my ingredients on this side, and I have all of my equipment on this side. So of my ingredients, this recipe is pretty versatile. I know, we've got just corn in here and Miracle Whip and taco seasoning, but I like to throw in a few extra veggies if I have to use up. So I've even got part of a red pepper. I've got kind of a mogi looking poblano pepper. I've got one lonely onion. And so this gives me a chance to kind of use those up. So these, I will chop these up, and they're going to be part of when I brown my meat. That they're going to go all together and they're going to be part of my meat layer. So it's just adding a little extra veggies, using some up from the fridge, and it's just going to add a little nutrition to this dish. Okay, so let's get started. I am going to first chop up this gross little pepper here. So I don't know if anybody else has vegetables they want to use up from the fridge, you're welcome to throw it in. I also want to show you, this is a little trick that we also learned. Maybe you do this too, but I always keep a bowl right next to me for scraps and garbage, just so I'm not going back and forth to the garbage can all the time. Because if you go to the garbage can, then you have to rewash your hands, and it's just kind of a hassle. So I always keep a little bowl right next to me, so all of my garbage just goes in there as I'm cooking. So it keeps it nice and clean, and it doesn't kind of interrupt my cooking. So I cut off that end of that pepper, boom, it's going in my garbage bin, okay? So I'm just gonna do a small dice. This is how I hold my knife. A lot of you might go like this. If that works for you, sure. I like to have lots of control with my knife, so this is kind of how I hold it. So all of my sturdiness is in my hand, and it's not focused on my finger, right? So you have more control if you can do it this way, right? So I'm going to just slice long strips of my pepper, turn it 90 degrees, and then go right across. So then you get those nice diced sizes. And there you go. You have a diced pepper, just like that. So I have a little bowl here. I'm gonna throw my pepper in there. Now we're gonna take an onion. If you have an onion, great. The recipe doesn't call for these veggies. So if you don't have these ingredients, don't worry, they're not necessary. But I just happen to have them, so I'm just gonna throw them in. So I'm gonna take off a bit of that skin. I don't know, I'm not gonna even add the whole onion. I'm gonna cut off the ends. I'm gonna, again, take these go whoop, in my bowl. And then I'm gonna cut it half from end to end. So I'm not gonna use the whole onion, so I'll put one half aside. And then we're gonna take off that outer peel, and it's going right into my garbage bin. And then I have this nice peeled half onion. And then there are different opinions on how to chop onions properly. For anybody that is interested on how I do it, again, there is no right or wrong way. If you get the pieces to the size you want, that's great. I will notice on an onion, you see these lines here? I like to follow those lines. I don't go this way and then that way. I just cut along those very lines. So we have the end with the root. Follow those lines. So you're kind of like following like a rainbow. You're going around the onion. So you have your lines, and then you're gonna turn it, and that's when you're gonna make your full cut. Just like that. So then you get a nice dice, right? There. And in the end, in my garbage bin, and just like that, we have a diced onion. Pretty easy. I'm gonna put this, because I'm gonna be cooking them all together, I'm gonna put it in with my red pepper that I just cut. Okay, so I do have this poblano pepper, but it's a little sad looking. So we might just chop it up or grill it, and then we can put it on at the end or whenever. But I've got my pepper and my onion. I've got my towel here, wipe my hands off and my cutting board. Then we're gonna go over, you're gonna turn on your pan. I have a cast iron pan that I'm using tonight. You can use a nonstick, whatever. I'm gonna heat it up to medium high and get it nice and hot, because when we put that meat in that pan, we want to hear it sing, we want to hear it sizzle, because that means we're going to get nice brown color. So just going to turn this on here for a hot minute. You're going to get it nice and hot. In the meantime, I will show you what I have as well here. So in the recipe, when I was a kid, my mom didn't put any garnishes or any toppings on this casserole, but since I'm a little older now, I like to add nutrients. So I like to add a little chopped iceberg lettuce. I like to add some fresh tomatoes on top. Of course, we have our corn that's going in the dish. And then the jury's out here on this one, but I absolutely love cilantro. A lot of people don't like it. They think it tastes like soap. I love the taste of soap, apparently. So I put it all over. And then, of course, just some sour cream that you can put on top as well. This dish, it's super versatile. And it's super quick, which is what I love about it. It can be ready in half an hour, 45 minutes. It takes no time to cook in the oven. My pan is getting nice and warm. I am using just lean ground beef. It's not extra lean. It's not regular. It's just kind of that nice middle ground lean ground beef. You can use whatever kind of ground beef you want. I like this one because it does have a little more fat than extra lean. And I actually like to keep the fat in, because that's why I buy lean ground beef, is for that extra fat, which means extra flavor. So I've got this ground beef that's thawed. I'm gonna go over to my cast iron pan. It is nice and hot. And I'm not even going to use any oil because there's already quite a bit of fat in this ground beef. So when I put it in, I'm hoping I'm going to hear it sizzle. And then we're going to start chopping it up and getting it nice and brown. And then if you do have these extra veggies, now is when you can also put them in with your meat. So they're all going to cook together, all right? So you should hear that meat sizzling. So I'm going to chop up. I'm sorry that you can't see this. It's kind of hard when I'm back and forth here, but I'm sure you all are doing this. Just chopping up your ground beef. And then I'm also going to add my onions and pepper. So I turned it down just a little bit, just because I'm going back and forth. But I'm gonna show you. We're also using a marble cheddar tonight. I had this little block left over. I'm gonna use it in addition to this guy. So we're gonna just start grating. As that's going, I know I said we were gonna measure. No, they are topping. Oh, sorry, I maybe missed a question in there. I can't really hear or see as I'm going back and forth. I apologize. If you have your cheese grater, your cheese, you can get grating that. And the recipe does call for, I think it's 2 cups. Measure with your heart. You don't have to have a set amount of cheese. If you like more, if you like less, that's the beauty of this recipe, that you can use as much or as little that you want. So just get that cheese grated, and then we're gonna put it in its own little bowl and set it aside. I'm just gonna check on my meat. So you might be getting some nice little brown bits on your ground beef, and that's exactly what we're looking for. That's gonna just add a little extra flavor. I'm just gonna keep grating a little more cheddar. I don't have quite enough yet. And again, you can mix, you don't have to use this. You can use a Monterey Jack. You can use, you know, like anything that has hot peppers in it. You can use whatever you want, but this is kind of the cheddar, the marble cheddar that I like to use. So there we go. So I've got about 2 cups in there. And then I'm going to do a few more grates just for good measure. How's everybody doing? Are we following along? Am I going too fast or too slow? Please let me know. Awesome. Okay, my meat is also still browning. Okay, I'm done with my cheese, so I'm gonna just put it aside, back on my tray with all my other ingredients. When your meat is done and browned, you can just turn that heat off, okay? Oh, it's smelling really good. If you want, another thing that I like to do is I keep a salt and pepper little, I guess they call it a pig, a salt pig next to my stove. I also keep one on my island, so I have access to salt wherever I need it because salt is my favorite ingredient. It makes everything taste good. So I have it right next to my stove. If you want to season that ground beef, you're welcome to. We will be, of course, adding the taco seasoning, but if you want to add a little salt, you're more than welcome to add some salt right now. Okay, so my meat is about 90% done. It's just about fully cooked. As soon as it is, I'm gonna turn it off and I'll bring it over here. However, in the meantime, I've got this measuring cup here. I'm gonna measure in my salsa, corn, Miracle Whip, and taco seasoning into this bowl. So I have my Miracle Whip.
I had one piece.
I can tell. Do you want to help me make taco whatever?
No.
Please?
Somebody trying to ask me a question, or am I just hearing somebody?
No, you're just hearing somebody.
Okay, perfect. It's good. That's good. No, makes me aware that there are other people out there actually listening to this. So I'm gonna do my Miracle Whip, measured out, just like that. I'm gonna turn my meat off because I'm gonna bet it's probably done. My meat is done. I'm just gonna set it here next to me so it stops cooking. So I don't want it to get too overdone. I'm gonna set it aside. It's gonna keep sizzling a little bit because that pan is really hot, so be careful. I've got my Miracle Whip here, measured out. Salsa, again, pick whatever salsa you like. I like a kind of a medium heat. So I go, again, measure with your heart. I'm throwing in a cup. That's going to be about 12 ounces. Okay, so we're going to mix this together just to get it going. Then to this, I'm going to throw my corn. Then I've got just a package of taco seasoning like this. I'm going to cut it open. Got scissors here. Again, garbage goes in the bowl. Now I'm going to measure out 2 tablespoons. You might find you want a little more. That's okay. You can use the whole package if you want. You absolutely can. I mean, you can't, there's very little left. So if you have just a little bit left, just throw it in. Not a big deal. I think when my mom made this recipe, she likely had a giant container of taco seasoning. That's probably why she had two tablespoons in this. But if you have a package, just throw in the package. So now we're going to stir this all up. Yum. Okay, here we go. So this, I am going to stir this into my meat. So it's okay that the meat is hot, that's fine, because this is all going in the oven anyways. So if you can throw it straight in the pan, or if you want, you can throw it in a separate bowl, that's fine too. But if we want to kind of cut down on the dishes afterwards, just throw it straight into the pan with the meat. So it's gonna go straight in. Okay, this goes right into the sink. So this pan is still quite hot, so I'm gonna move it in front of the screens for you guys to see. Okay. So just stir that all up. And if you want, a very, very important step is just give it a taste. If it needs more salt, if it needs more taco seasoning, this is where you can make that call. Just give it a little taste because everything is cooked. That meat's cooked. So there's nothing raw in here. So you can even use this, cover this in cheese, throw it in the oven. You've got a really nice taco dip. You know, this is just a really kind of tasty layer that you can use for a party night, game night, you know, Monday Night Football, whatever. So we've got this all mixed up. I'm gonna set it back aside. I'm actually gonna grab a spoon and taste it myself. Yeah, it's great. Super tasty. Okay, so before we start layering, this is the fun part. Taco chips. We're gonna crunch them up just a little bit. Again, if I'm going too fast, please let me know. And I can slow it down. Or if I'm not going fast enough, it could be the case. I'm not gonna crunch these up into tiny like breadcrumb sizes. I just want, you absolutely can add the sauce if the meat is still hot. That's what I did. So I'm gonna crack these up into pieces that are maybe this size. So if you have like a full size taco chip, maybe a third of that size, so you still have some pretty big layer or chunks. And then again, measure with your heart. The taco chips is actually one of my favorite parts because they kind of give a little texture to this casserole. So if you have a little more than 2 cups, that works fine. You'll use them up. This is, again, one of my instructors used to tell me that recipes are just guidelines. So feel free to kind of improvise where you need to. So if you want to add more chips, that's totally fine. Just crunch them up a little bit. And again, like I said, you better taste them to see if they're good. Yeah, they're fine. Okay. I'm just gonna add another handful. A little bit of crunching. Oh, so nice. Okay, so I have some bigger chunks, some smaller chunks. I've got this nice little bowl of chips. So we have everything ready to assemble. We've got our meat mixture, we've got our chips, we've got our cheese. I'm using this dish here. Again, if you want to add, sometimes if you use 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds of beef or more veggies, more cheese, you might want to go into a slightly bigger casserole dish like a lasagna pan. Can also work. I've made it in a lasagna pan. It worked fine. But because it's just me, I am going to use this dish here. and I'm gonna start building. Is everybody ready to build, or does anybody want me to slow down at all? Get my cup. Okay, I'm gonna start building. So this is just like kind of building a lasagna. It's layer by layer by layer. So we're gonna do 2 full layers. So we're gonna cut everything in half. We're gonna start with our meat, then we're gonna do half of our chips, and then we're gonna do half of our cheese, and then we're gonna do it again. And then that's it, okay? So I'm gonna divide my meat in half in my pan, so I know how to kind of ration it. And I'm gonna scoop it into my dish. Okay, so I've got the first meat layer. You can spread it out. It doesn't have to be perfectly spread out, right? You just want to get it to the corners. Okay, so it's gonna look something like that. No big, right? You're gonna spread it to the corners. Put that there. Then next we're gonna take half of our chips. Spread the love. Spread it all around. If you feel like you don't have enough chips, by all means, just crush a few more. Not a big deal. There's a layer of chips. And then I'm gonna do half of the cheese. And just get it to every corner. Okay, and then we're gonna do the same thing over again. So you guys keep going with that. And I'm gonna do my second layer as well. Okay, spread it out. And again, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's gonna kind of all melt together in the oven and come together. So just get it as best as you can to the corners. Spread throughout. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the last of my chips.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I just threw mine in the oven, so like once it's done cooking, can I like throw it on a broil to broil the cheese at the top?
Yeah, if you want to. I mean, it's gonna, like, it doesn't really take that long. The 20 or 30 minutes that it goes in the oven, the cheese will brown. But if you find it's not as brown as you want, absolutely throw on the broiler, get that nice bubbly brown goodness. Just
Okay.
make sure to watch it so it doesn't
Yeah.
get away from you. Because those broilers have a way of just getting away from you and burning everything. Okay, so then the last of my cheese is going on. How's everybody doing? Okay, awesome. So there we go. That is a taco or nacho casserole, whatever you want to call it. I'm just gonna put these aside. This goes in the oven for 20, 30 minutes. You don't have to cover it because, as I mentioned, you want that cheese to get nice and brown and bubbly. While this is in the oven, we are going to prep our toppings, okay? So if your oven is ready to go and you are all built and set, throw her in and set your timer for 20 minutes. Okay. So if everybody's ready, I will move on to the garnish. I'm gonna give it a little wipe. Make sure we're working cleanly because clean food means tasty food. So we're gonna start with chopping our tomato. You're gonna take off the end. I'm using a Roma tomato. You can use whatever tomato. You can use cherry tomatoes and slice them in half. You can, whatever tomatoes you have, you can use yellow tomatoes, you can use purple tomatoes, whatever. I'm using a Roma because these are typically the most affordable at the grocery store. So I'm just gonna slice off this end, put it in my garbage bowl. And then this one, I'm going to put it on the cut end down, and I'm going to cut slices, probably about, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of a centimeter thick, all the way down. Like that. And then I'm gonna take half of them. Sometimes this little end, if the knife isn't sharp enough, it's gonna be hard to cut through that. So if you just put it aside, that's fine. And then slice lengthwise, the same size. And then whoop, you're gonna go 90 degrees and then finish your dice. And then boom, you have diced tomatoes. So we're gonna put those in a little bowl. And we're gonna finish chopping the rest of our tomato. And then with the ends, I don't cut them on the flat end. I'll turn them over so they're kind of on that rolly end. But then I keep my tip of my knife on the board so I have more control that way. So I'm not going to be cutting my fingers. Just like that. That goes in the bowl. Beautiful. There you got your diced tomato. Okay. Next, we are going to do our lettuce. Let's cut open that bad boy. This in the garbage. Kind of take off the outer leaves that are not as nice looking. Okay, there's a trick. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You've maybe seen this before. If you were using the whole head, you can use this trick. Normally, you see this end here, you just slam it down. And then typically, you can just take out the core. And it comes out pretty clean. So you just give it a good smash or a squish, and then dig your fingers in there and just whoop, pull out that core, and then you've got a clean head of lettuce. So that's kind of a fun trick. Of course, I'm not going to be using this whole head tonight. We're just going to use a little bit. So just cut off a little portion of the lettuce. I'm going to put the full head aside. And then we're going to do, it's not really a chiffonade cut, but it's going to be a thin slice. So what I like to do, again, I use the same technique with my knife, the tip of my knife on my cutting board. And I use the edge of my finger as a guide. So my finger is not going to allow any sort of cuts to happen to my fingers. And then I can go super, super thin. Just keep it, go nice and slow if you have to. Just practice going nice and slow. And you can get those nice thin slices. I do this just because it looks pretty. If you want to do diced or chunks, that's totally cool as well. I just like to have some, you know, little contrast in appearance. So we've got our diced tomatoes, now we've got this nice shredded lettuce. So this is gonna go in this bowl. Okay. Clean off our cutting board again. Again, keeping a nice clean station. And then finally, our cilantro. Some people like to pick the leaves off of the cilantro. That is not necessary. The stem of the cilantro is actually more cilantro-y than the leaf. So I use the whole thing. I don't pick off the leaves. That stem is gonna add just as much flavor. So I typically just kind of take a bunch with my hand and I cut through, watching your fingers. You don't want to cut your fingies. Okay, this side. And then I like to bundle it a little bit with my fingers and then do the same thing that I did with the lettuce. So just nice and slow to get those nice fine cuts. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is not cooking school. Just like that. Okay. I like to keep it a little coarse because I like how it looks nice and dark, nice leafy cilantro. But if you don't like cilantro, just leave it off. No biggie. I'm just gonna grab another little bowl here. And it's gonna go in. Perfect. Okay. So those are my garnishes. I have sour cream. If you want to put this in a bowl, you can, but there's really no way to prep that. We can put these all aside. Now I have a question for everybody. You can answer if you feel you know the answer. There's no right answer or wrong. Can anybody tell me what other garnishes, these are garnishes, the toppings. Can anybody tell me what other toppings might work with this dish?
Green onions.
Yeah, absolutely. I do actually have green onions here as well.
Peppers?
Peppers? Absolutely. Yeah, you could totally put peppers. And you know what? Not just sweet peppers, but you could also put jalapeno peppers. You know, you could put pickled peppers on there. If you like extra spice, you can throw some jalapeno peppers. What else would you put on nachos?
Black olive.
Lime, black olives, lime. Yeah, lime is a good one. Lime just on top before you serve it. Oh, yes, that little brightness for sure. Black olives, absolutely. They would look spectacular. I love the look of them. That's something to think about when you're cooking. Not everything is about red onions. Great one, absolutely. So these are all things you can put on your dish. But so that's something to think about, is just how colorful this dish can be. So when you are cooking, the more color there is, likely the healthier it's going to be. Because you think of all these vegetables you guys are naming, those are super healthy for you. And they're going to make your dish look beautiful. So if you're cooking this dish for your family, if you threw on some red onion and black olives and some green jalapeno peppers, like, for sure, your parents would be so impressed with you guys. That's such a good one. And for any of you older students, you know, if you are, once you move out of home, or if you end up, you know, needing to cook for a hot date or something, this is a great dish. It's tasty, it's comfort food, and it's really beautiful with all the colors that you can put on it. So that's a good one. How is everybody's in the oven, I'm assuming. While you're waiting, you can absolutely just take your dishes to your dish area. I'm gonna put my Miracle Whip away because I don't like leaving it out too long. So I'm just gonna go back in the fridge Does anybody have any questions for me? It doesn't even have to be about this dish. It can be any food related questions. I have a question for all of you guys. This is a question I ask all of my peers, is if you were on a deserted desert island, what would be the one meal that you would want? That it's like your only meal that you get. What would be your meal that you would pick? It could be anything you want. It doesn't have to be this. I'll tell you what mine is. Even though I am a chef, my go-to meal for when I just need a little extra joy or happiness is a 20-pack of McNuggets, sweet and sour sauce, and McDonald's fries. Pizza, good one. Ooh, do we want, what kind of pizza? It's very vague there, Colton. Pizza with a side of chicken and fries. Yeah, solid. Pizza's a very common one. Love it. Any pizza, yeah, it's true. California rolls. All right, Kenzie. Yum. Tacos, yeah, love it. I missed that last one. Pierogies or ice cream. All right, very Manitoba answer. Love it. Lobster and crab legs, pulled pork and macaroni. Oh, you guys, these are some good options. Burgers, yes. Burgers, that's actually a good one. If you guys are watching next season, they're farmer sausage and pierogies. Yeah, I totally agree with that one. I also love a good Thanksgiving dinner, but like, as you know, some of us might be Ukrainian. I like a Ukrainian, so sandwich with every possible topping. Noah, home run, absolutely. Yeah, like a Thanksgiving Ukrainian with the pierogies, you know, perishke, halapchi. Oh yeah, meatballs, ham, turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, cranberries, coleslaw, all the good things. That broccoli salad, whew, that is a winner in my opinion. Okay, I'm just gonna check on my dish. Oh yeah, that cheese is getting nice and brown on top. Kenzie B, part Ukrainian. Me too. That's awesome. All right, that's awesome, you guys. I'm so glad that are you guys enjoying it? Is this okay? Am I doing okay here? It's my first time doing this, and I'm kind of loving it. I love that you guys can join me in my kitchen. That's really fun. All right. Thanks, Aiden. Thanks, Austin. That's awesome. Yeah, if you ever are near Red River College downtown, for sure, come say hi. Yeah, I was part of the culinary school there, and we have a lot of new students in, and they're all nervous and excited, and it's a really great program. So, ooh, Gabrielle, you rebel, started in advanced pro. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to be able to do this again for you guys sometime. So, well, I'm at 6 minutes left on my casserole. Maybe you guys are probably close-ish to that range. I'm gonna throw my garbage out. All right, and then I've got our garnishes here. Dishes for later. If you guys don't mind, can you just put your ages in, like just type in your age? I don't really know how how old you guys are. 13, 12, 17, 16. Awesome. 15, 18, 13. Oh, you guys, we got a whole wide 8. So awesome. 88. All right. Awesome. I'm so happy about this. You guys, this was really fun. 16 and 13. Wow, there's quite a few of you too. I wish I could see your smiling faces because this is really fun. But it's okay. Maybe next time. Okay. So the rule in my house is if I'm the one cooking, which I normally am, then whoever is eating, they got to do the dishes. So you can tell your siblings or your parents, you guys, you're doing dishes because I cooked. I think that's rule of thumb for most houses, okay? Also, I also like to have water next to me too. Cool, so we're almost done here. Oh yeah, she's getting nice and brown. So once that comes out of the oven, it's obviously going to be piping hot. You're gonna let it sit for maybe 10-15 minutes because it's gonna give it a chance to just kind of settle down and get all those bubbles to kind of settle down. Then you can just serve it up. You can either slice it like you would lasagna, or you can just spoon it. That top layer of chips are gonna be probably a little crispy, so you might wanna just dig down into there. Make sure you get everything from the bottom. Top it with your lettuce, your tomato, your cilantro, if you want, your sour cream, and then all of your amazing suggestions, your peppers, your black olives, your jalapeno peppers, give it a squeeze of lime, and yeah, totally. It's a super, super delicious, super easy. Like, I feel like this is a pretty easy meal, right? Like, do you guys feel like this is something that you could make by yourselves at home on a weeknight? No. All right, Bryden. Well, again, you don't have to do all the chopping. If you just did the ground beef, the salsa, the corn, and the Miracle Whip, that's pretty easy. Then it's just browning meat, right? And then you just build it from there. So that's pretty straightforward. You don't have to go to too much work for this, right? And yeah, it's going to be you're going to be adding this to your recipe favorites box because it's really tasty. So, and like I said, that meat mixture, even if you just kept it in the pan, topped it with cheese, and like even if you want to throw in some tomatoes or whatever, throw it back in the oven and let that get bubbly, and then just use that as a chip dip. Total winner, total game changer. Okay, so mine is just about done. It's just got a couple minutes left on it. But that cheese is nice and golden brown. I'll pull it out in a hot second here. Just gonna wipe off my. Here, we are done with that. Give my station a little wipe. Okay, and then as soon as that comes out, I will pull it out and you guys can take a peek, and I can bet that yours are gonna look exactly the same. It doesn't take a professional chef to make good food, you know? Just if you like it, that's awesome. Then I think that's good cooking. If it's something that you enjoy and you can serve for your family and they enjoy it, then you're a good cook. That's all it takes. Okay, I've got 10 seconds left here and I'll pull it out. Okay, careful. Okay, so this is what mine looks like. I can hear it. I can hear it kind of bubbling away. Let me know if you guys have the same results. Oh, it smells so good. Yeah. So, yeah, let it sit. And then if you guys, yeah, you can serve it up in a bit. It makes for terrific leftovers. I'll be taking this for my lunch to work tomorrow. I'll probably be taking the whole thing so I can serve my coworkers as well. But yeah, that is doesn't look exactly like it, but does it need more browning? If it needs more browning, just throw it back in the oven. And like we heard that suggested, you can even just broil it a little bit. And then you can get that nice browning. Yeah, Doritos, totally. Total winner, Shauna. Good idea. You absolutely can use Doritos. How about some like Cool Ranch Doritos? Like, yeah, that's awesome. Cool. And that is this dish. I can even serve some up just to see what it looks like. A little plate here. Normally I would let this sit a little bit longer, but because we're pals, I'm gonna dish them up. I'm just gonna give it a little, oh yeah, can you hear that crispiness? Get right to the bottom. There you go. Oh yeah. Hey. Super, super, super tasty. And then, yep, just a little bit of lettuce on top, a little bit of tomato, a little bit of cilantro. Boom. That's a solid dish. I'm gonna have a bite. It's gonna be the temperature of the sun, but for you guys, I will. Oh yeah. Yeah, whoever suggested the lime, good idea. That would be perfect on here. Absolutely. You can add whatever you want. Add more cheese. You can add more tomato, whatever. Totally works. Okay. That is it for me, you guys. If there's any final questions, I'm here for another few minutes. I'm happy to help. But ooh, yeah, that's good. I can't wait to have that tomorrow.
I know, like honestly, I made it on the weekend and I had it every day for lunch. That's how much I liked it. I'm like, I can't stop. I love it.
Awesome.
And
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it again. It's a favorite now. So
Perfect.
thank you so
Great.
much. So if there are no more questions, I really want to say thank you. That was a great session. It looks like everybody is loving it. And it really was an easy recipe that kids can do. Look, there's a 10 out of 10 for you there. So before you guys run away though, we have Nancy here, Nancy Howatt, and she is a beef producer and agricultural advocate. Home base for her is the Manitou area where she operates Sunset Ridge Angus. She's a longtime member of the Manitoba Beef Producers Board of Directors, where she represents District 2, which includes Argyle, Cartwright, Robin, Killarney, Turtle Mountain, Lauren, Louise, Pembina, and Prairie Lakes. And she's here tonight, and she's going to do some questions and answers with you guys. So Nancy, if you want to jump on.
Thank you, Cheryl and Anna. I can smell the taco. I can smell it, and I'm not even close to an oven, so I bet you it's so good. Oh, I'm so excited about talking to you young people. I'm sorry I don't have my video on, but it's going all wonky on me tonight, and I don't want you guys to get crazy eyes. So yeah, we farm down by the edge of the Pembina Valley, and myself, I run about 110 mama cows, and we'll start calving here in March. So we're starting to get excited about that. And after last spring with all the adverse blizzards and storms, I'm sort of hoping that the weather is more cooperative this year. But yeah, so I was actually in 4-H as a, I want to say I was 9 or 10, and I was in horse 4-H. And I was only in it for a few years because I actually had a large family, and we grew up on a dairy farm, and there was just always work to do on the farm, and it was just a time crunch thing. But when my 4 kids became of age, they all were in beef 4-H. So I was actually a beef 4-H leader for 10 years, and all 4 of my kids had many, many beef projects. So they were very active members in 4-H, and I can't say enough about the 4-H, what it instills in you to take through to your adulthood, because how to conduct a proper meeting and how to give speeches and how to do it properly, and you will carry that through time and time again. Not to mention, as soon as you go for applying for jobs, if 4-H is on your applications, trust me, they will take a second look. So by all means, definitely pursue. And so I'm wondering if any of you have any questions in the chat box about my farm or my cows or my kids or 4-H in the past, or any questions. I'm just kind of gonna wing it here. So if you don't ask me questions, I might just pinpoint one of you and ask you. So you better man up. So I am actually on the Beef Producers Board, and this is my 5th year. So we're having our annual general meeting next week in Winnipeg, and there's 14 directors on the board from all different parts of Manitoba, and we are the voice, and we represent all the beef producers in Manitoba. So how many beef producers do you think there are in our province? Anybody got any guesses or ideas? Somebody put something in the chat, or I'm gonna hit you up.
25.
25?
32.
Yeah.
So there's 6,300 beef producers in Manitoba, and there's approximately 400,000 beef cows. So Manitoba is a wonderful province because we have a whole adverse of different landscapes which support the beef industry. So if it's not an arable acre that can be worked up for grain farm, and it's a grassy ravine that does drainage or something, you can always put a fence around it, and the cows can utilize it. So one of the questions in the chat is, what kind of cows do I have? So I used to have all red Angus, and now we've actually switched to mostly black or black white face cows. And we use one horned Hereford bull and a few Simmental bulls, and yeah, so it's you can, I have a few speckled parks and a few shorthorns, and I like to dabble in this and that, and we have a few Wagyu cross calves coming up, so that's kind of exciting because that is one of the world's most delicacies for marbling in your steaks. So anyway, so what else can I tell you about my place? Let's see here. I have a few footnotes. I'm sure Anna told you all about all the benefits of eating beef, so I don't probably have to go into that too much, but it is one of the most nutrient dense foods that the human consumes. So, and it is comparable when you think about all the goodness in an ounce of beef as compared to an ounce of lettuce. The bang for your buck at the grocery store is definitely there. So the cattle are the Interlake area, actually north of Winnipeg. I just want to say there's a lot of ranches up there because there's cattails and there's bush and rocky soil, sandy soil, and land that isn't quite as suitable for grain farming. So the cattle are able to utilize the grasses up there and convert it to food. So and then we in turn convert them into food. So it is a very viable, cost-effective beef operation up there. So are there any other questions? So you're probably wondering what we do every day on the farm, or maybe you're not, I don't know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So in the winter time, of course, the cows can't eat grass. So I call it feeding chores, but the cows have to be fed, and we feed test everything, and we make sure that the cows and the baby calves all have a balanced diet, just like you guys, your parents make sure that you guys get the proper vitamins and minerals and nutrients through your diet. We do the same thing with our cows. So does anybody know what we feed our cows? Any suggestions in the chat box? What do you think they eat in the winter time?
Silage.
We feed some corn silage, yes, that's right, and hay, that's right too. There's different types of hay. There's slough hay, there's alfalfa, there's brome, there's what some producers call green feed, which is actually oats or barley or peas that are baled up with the actual grain in it, and that's also used as part of a ration. And if we're gonna really fatten them up and get them ready for butcher, then we'll feed them barley, rolled barley, or possibly rolled oats and corn silage. Yeah, so, and it, like I say, you can't feed them just corn silage. You have to have some kind of roughage or hay or even straw mixed in there to get that fiber in that diet. So a cow's ration is quite, well, it's an art to figure out the proper balance between pounds of this and pounds of that. Are there any beef markets outside of the big box stores? This is in the chat. So lots of producers. Oh my gosh, I love the picture of our little cows. That's so cute. Those are our stress squeegee cows. But anyway, yes, you can buy directly from a producer. I know from myself, I provide a lot of hamburger, and I sometimes sell a half or a quarter from the freezer directly, so long as it is butchered in a approved, inspected kill site. So abattoir. Yeah, you can buy it directly from a producer. We sure appreciate taking out the middleman, because sometimes they're the ones that make the most money. So if you can hook up directly with a beef producer, I'm sure we can provide hamburger or steaks or whatever for you. So are there any other questions before I wrap this up? Because you guys are a pretty quiet group. Very quiet. I should make each of you ask me a question before I leave, and then that way we might be here for a little bit. So you can follow the Manitoba Beef Producers on Twitter at Manitoba Beef. We are on Facebook, Manitoba Beef Producers, or Instagram, Manitoba Beef Producers in lowercase, or you can check out our website, www.mbbeef.ca. So we also have an e-newsletter once a week, or sorry, it's actually 8 times, it's weekly e-newsletter, but 8 times a year we have a newspaper called Cattle Country. So you can email us at info@mbbeef.ca. And there's all kinds of cool recipes on our website. I know Anna, we're sure lucky to have such a talented chef on our staff. How much does a cow weigh compared to how much meat you get? So a fat animal ready for harvesting would weigh about 14 to 1,500 pounds. And you would harvest about 800 pounds from that animal. So once they trim the bones off and hide and all that stuff, it's all weight. And yeah, you would end up with at least 400 pounds of beef off of a half of a fat animal. That's an excellent question. Excellent question. Some cows will weigh a lot more. I know some 4-H steers, they end up being like 1,800 pounds. They're very large, depending on the breed. The Simmentals are usually a little bit bigger. So that was a very good question. So are there any more questions? I know the beef 4-H projects, you have to pick out your animal, usually in October. You go and pick out a calf and they weigh it, and it usually weighs about 600 to 700 pounds. And then they feed it all winter. The 4-H kids feed them to get them ready for the show, which is usually in June, July. And those calves are gaining anywhere from 4 to 5 pounds a day. So they're well cared for, and I still help 4-H kids clip and halter break, and there's so much work involved, and they have to do a project workbook, which compares the cost of feeding your animal per day, the cost of buying it as compared to the cost when you sell it. And there usually isn't very much money in it, but anyway, it's a good project. It sure teaches the kids about responsibility, and it's a 4-H is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. So anyway, any other questions for me before I sign off? Any other questions in the chat or anything, or? You guys are a very, very quiet group.
Everybody's probably eating that delicious meal they just made.
Well, that's a good thing. It looked really, really yummy.
It's really good.
So one of my favorite meals to make for my family is actually shepherd's pie. So I don't know if any of the parents have ever made it, but I have a huge garden, and I have my own beef, and if I can make the shepherd's pie from everything off of the farm, that's a super proud moment for me. Plus I get to feed my 4 very hungry children. So someone asked, how many calves does a cow have? So every 12 months, she would have 1 calf. And that baby calf, when it's born, weighs anywhere from 80 to 110 pounds at birth. And then the calf will live strictly off the mother's milk for the first 6 to 7 months of its life. And when he gets a little bit older, he'll eat grass alongside his mother, but yeah. One of the chats says we're all full. Oh. Anyway, so is there any other comments or questions or concerns that anybody has in the chat? So be sure to look us up on our Facebook page or our website. And like I say, we've got all kinds of interesting stuff going on all the time. And we do a lot of communication for advocacy for the beef producers. And I'm very passionate about it. I have been very passionate about my beef cows. I love my cows. So I can't say enough good things about all the research and education that the Manitoba Beef Producers does for our industry. Oh, somebody's spooning up a big plateful there. Tegan, I'm watching you. All right. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed your taco recipe, taco casserole recipe. And Cheryl, have you got any questions for me?
You know, after you were talking about calving, how many calves, like they have one annually, you said every year, but how many do they have throughout their lifespan?
So a good cow with good feet and a good udder, and the cows have to reproduce every year, otherwise it's too expensive to feed them if they don't have a calf. I would say a good cow will last 10 years, 10 calves. Yeah. The general rule of thumb is 6 to 7 years old, but I have a lot of 10-year-old cows out there right now. So yeah. And each cow will get what is called, or as a calf, they will get what is called a CCIA button, Canadian Cattleman's Identification Number. And that goes with her for life. And inside that little round ear tag is actually a radio frequency implanted in it. And they can scan that animal at any point, anywhere it goes in its life, and they'll be able to trace it back to me. And that's all to do with biosecurity in diseases. And if any issues come up with that cow later in her life, she might be out in Alberta and they scan her and they're like, oh, this came from Nancy Howatt's. Yeah, so I mean, we're very, very careful about producing one of the healthiest foods. Like, we want to make sure that the consumer gets an absolutely top quality product. So we're very careful about that. Yeah. And it's all traceable. So anything we do, yeah. So I hope that answered your question, Cheryl.
Yeah, it really did. There's so much I don't know. Like I'm in the paw and we don't have a lot of cattle farmers here, not big farmers. So I don't know too much about it.
So where are all these 4-H members from? Are they from up in your way or where?
Most are from the south.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Interlake area, southern Manitoba.
Okay. Awesome. All over. So do any of them have beef cattle? I should have asked that to start with. Do any of you have 4-H kids have beef cattle? Are you horses? What are you? What clubs are you? Well, they're from Brandon, Minnedosa. So what kind of multi-purpose? Okay. So is multi-purpose like sewing, carpentry, welding?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Balmoral. Ah, there's one with horses. I have 1 horse, 3 chickens, 6 barn cats, and 2 dogs that think they're my children. Yeah. Well, I wish I could put up, oh, there's somebody with cows. Good deal. A mare and a filly. Lots of horses.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice. I always say horses are hay burning lawn ornaments because they they don't really serve much of a purpose, but we love them. So are there any other questions about beef producers? I can try to answer. I'm not I've been in this business for a while, but sometimes I do things and I don't even think about them. So on Sunday, when it was so nice, my two daughters came and helped me, and we put all the cows through the alleyway in the chutes and we vaccinated them. So just like I was talking about biosecurity in case they carry diseases or whatever to somebody else's place, we have a very stringent vaccination program for all our cows and calves to try to prevent or help prevent diseases such as the stuff that we gave the cows on Sunday. It actually kills any sucking lice in their hides, and then we had a pour on for that, and then we gave them a needle each, and that needle will give them antibodies in their colostrum, or the first milk that the babies suck, and that will help prevent scours in the calf crop. And scours is kind of like what do you call it? Diarrhea in people, but it can really make them they're like small children. If they get sick, they just don't want to drink, they don't want to get up, and they get a temperature. So we try to prevent any of these things from entering our herd by keeping and when they're baby calves, we give them vitamin A and D, and we give them selenium, and we like to give them a really good start in life. So I love my baby calves. Yeah. So anyway, well, Cheryl, it sounds like a pretty quiet group you got there.
Yeah. Well, I learned lots from you anyway. Like, you told me some things tonight that I didn't know about. So thank you. And I'm going to check out the website for sure, because I'm always looking for things to teach the kids.
Oh, good. Yes. Well, if we can be of any help to you, for sure, let us know. And we can send some good swag bag to you maybe. And
Awesome.
yeah, I'm a big promoter of 4-H, so you guys keep on keeping on. Well, have a good evening, everybody.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us tonight and answer their questions. All right, everybody, thank you for joining, and send Linda some pictures, and we will see you guys next time. Have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Night.
Night.